and 1.
Good evening and welcome to the City of Brisbane City Council meeting of Thursday, May 20th, 2021. City Clerk, preamble, please.
This meeting is compliant with the Governor's Executive Order N-29-20 issued on March 17, 2020, allowing for a deviation of teleconference rules required by the Brown Act. The purpose of this is to provide the safest environment for staff, council members, and the public while allowing for public participation. The public may address the council using exclusively remote public comment options. The council may take action on any item listed in the agenda. Public meeting videos. Members of the public may view the City Council meeting by logging into the Zoom webinar listed below. City Council meetings can also be viewed live and/or on demand via the city's YouTube channel, youtube.com/BrisbaneCA, or on Comcast Channel 27. Archive videos can be replayed on the city's website, brisbaneca.org/meetings. To address the council. The City Council meeting will be an exclusively virtual meeting. The City Council agenda materials may be viewed online at www.brisbaneca.org at least 24 hours prior to a special meeting and at least 72 hours prior to a regular meeting. Remote public comments. Meeting participants are encouraged to submit public comments in writing in advance of the meeting. Aside from commenting while in the Zoom webinar, the following email and text line will also be monitored during the meeting, and public comments received will be noted for the record during oral communications 1 and 2 or during an item. Email ipadilla@brisbaneca.org, text 628-219-2922. Join the Zoom webinar at zoom.us with the ID 991-9362-8666 with the passcode 123456 and the call-in number 1-669-900-9128. If you need special assistance to participate in this meeting, please contact the City Clerk at 415-508-2113. Notification in advance of the meeting will enable the city to make reasonable arrangements to ensure accessibility to this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 1, 7:30 p.m. call to order. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of America
and to the
republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with
liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call. City Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilmember Davis.
Here.
Councilmember Lentz.
Here.
Councilmember Mackin.
Here.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Here.
And Mayor Cunningham.
Here. Thank you. Adoption of the agenda. Staff has asked to pull the consent calendar item G from the agenda and it will not be discussed. Can I get a first and second to adopt the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Lentz.
Aye.
Councilmember Mackin.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
And Mayor Cunningham.
Aye. We have several proclamations this evening, which I'm proud to read. You get sick of hearing my voice. The first one is the Asian American Pacific Islander AAPI Heritage Month Proclamation, designating May 2021 as AAPI Month. And here is the proclamation, which I will now read. Whereas this May, during Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month, we recognize the history and achievements of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. We reflect on the tradition of leadership, resilience, and courage shown by AAPI communities and recommit to the struggle for AAPI equity. And whereas in the City of Brisbane, Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders make up nearly 30% of our community, making our community more vibrant through diversity of cultures, languages, and religions. And whereas there is no single story of the AAPI experience, but rather a diversity of contributions that enrich our culture and society, from laying railroad tracks, tilling fields, and starting businesses, to caring for our loved ones and honorably serving our nation in uniform AAPI communities are deeply rooted in the history of the United States. And whereas the city also celebrates and honors the invaluable contributions that AAPI communities have made to our nation's culture and the arts, law, science, and technology, sports, and public service. And whereas in spite of the strength shown and success achieved, the city stands in solidarity with the AAPI community as they continue their struggle to overcome systemic barriers to economic justice, health equity, educational attainment, and personal safety. And now, therefore, I, Mayor Karen Cunningham, in recognition of this event, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2021 as Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month, and I encourage the community to join us this month in celebrating AAPI history, people, and cultures. Dated May 20th, 2021. Thank you, everybody. Was there anybody who wished to comment on this, Ingrid?
I see no members of the public wishing to comment.
Thank you. So we'll move forward to item B, another proclamation designating May as Older Americans Month, and one of them. And here is our proclamation for our older Americans in our community. Older Americans Month proclamation, designation May 2021 as Older Americans Month. Whereas during Older Americans Month, we celebrate older Americans and the key role they play in sharing the wisdom and experience that inform today's decisions and actions, and fostering the connection and engagement that builds strong, resilient communities. And whereas the city recognizes our responsibility to ensure that everyone has the opportunity to age with dignity. And whereas during the COVID-19 pandemic, older Americans have stepped up to support their family, friends, and neighbors. They are among our essential workers, volunteers, and donors, bolstering their communities and inspiring others to do the same. And whereas older Americans have suffered greatly and provided inspirational demonstrations of strength. And whereas older Americans ages 65 and over comprise about 10% of the city of Brisbane. During Older Americas Month, we honor these citizens and their continued contributions. We commit to learning from them, and we pledge to support their futures. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Karen Cunningham, in recognition of this event, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2021 as Older Americans Month, and I encourage the community to celebrate older Americans during this month and throughout the year. Dated May 20, 2021. Thank you. Was there anybody who wished to make any comments on this, Ingrid?
There are no members of the public wishing to speak, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And now moving forward, we celebrate National Public Works Week proclamation and designating May 16 to 22, May 22, 2021 as Public Works Week. I am going to read the names who are here from City Hall. From City Hall, Karen Kinza is going to accept this proclamation. Greg Morris, Diane Cannon, Adrian Etherton, Jerry Flanagan, Jessica Lee, Bob Sage, Justin Wynn, Jefferson Chow, and from the Marina, Teresa Camarda, Douglas Messing, Chris Redfield, Andrew Rayberg. And from our corporate yard, we have Keegan Black, Dustin Cohn, Kessel Crockett, Todd Curtis, Joe Friars, Devin Gutierrez, Greg Morris, Albert Mosley, Alan Sandoval, Dolan Shoblo, Randy Thomas, and Gerald Wilkin. Did Karen wish to say anything, or shall I read the proclamation?
You want me to speak before or after?
Well, okay, I'll read it, then you can speak.
Okay.
Okay, so National Public Works Week proclamation, May 16 through 23, 2021. Stronger together. Whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to the public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of the city of Brisbane. And whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public work professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector, who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment and solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. And whereas it is in the public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and the children in the city of Brisbane to gain knowledge of and to maintain an ongoing interest and understanding in the importance of public works and public works programs in their respective communities. And whereas the year 2021 marks the 61st annual National Public Works Week sponsored by the American Public Works Association, be it now resolved, I, Mayor Karen Cunningham, do hereby designate the week May 16 to 22, 2021 as National Public Works Week. I urge all citizens to join with representatives of the American Public Works Association and the government agencies in activities, events, and ceremonies designed to pay tribute to our public works professionals, engineers, managers, and employees, and to recognize the substantial contributions they make to protecting our national health, safety, and quality of life. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the state to be affixed, done at the city of Brisbane in the state of California, this 20th day of May, 2021. And here is our Public Works proclamation. Karen, over to you.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and council members, for that proclamation. I did want to just say a few words about Public Works. I looked at the presentations over the prior years and noticed a focus on the very critical work of maintaining the city's water and sewer systems. For example, the daily station checks of water pump stations and sewer lift stations. Not mentioned often enough are the many and regular reporting requirements to operate these systems. Infrastructure is critical and the work to maintain it essential. But I want to take this moment to also highlight the many other varied things public works staff do. First, regarding the COVID-19 pandemic, via the Office of Emergency Services, we first updated an existing pandemic flu response plan. Fitting in with the Stronger Together theme, this last year, O&M crews remained on call and ready to respond during the early shelter-in-place period, then reported to work safely by staggering shifts and taking necessary precautions in order to perform their essential duties. Public Works staff also used existing online tools to create a contact tracing form for all staff to use when working in city facilities. In addition to the Office of Emergency Services, Public Works staff oversees the Marina, Sustainability Program, Geographic Information Systems, also known as GIS, and the better known water, sewer, storm drain, roads, bike and pedestrian facilities, street trees, city buildings such as City Hall, Fire Station, and the Courtyard, and their grounds and landscaping, maintenance of recreation facilities, including parks, restrooms, sports fields, tennis courts, the basketball court, the skate park, playgrounds, community pool, Sierra Point Lighting and Landscape District, and the mandated stormwater pollution prevention program. We staff citizen advisory committees to council and review and inspect all work in the city right of way, be it by a city contractor, a developer, a resident, or a business. Some highlights in the past year include installing medallions on walk routes, along with bulb outs and bioretention basins at street corners, upgrading upper street water mains to meet fire flow needs, deep root watering of street trees during drought periods, using water recaptured from necessary hydrant flushing. So many regular things department staff do are not known or visible, such as outreach and education when irrigation water runs off of property and over sidewalks, particularly during drought periods. Assisting non-computer savvy residents with online go requests, performing regular surveys of streets for illegal dumping activities, and maintaining programs to reduce energy and water use by business and residents, planning compost giveaways, just to name a few. There's a lot of support among staff and between Public Works and other departments, and because of it, we are stronger together. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Karen. And thanks everybody from Public Works. I know there's a whole bunch of you sitting there, so thanks very much.
Madam Mayor, would it be okay for the council if they wanted to
Sure.
say a little something about Public Works folks?
Absolutely.
All right, great, thank you. Yeah, I just want to just thank you guys again, for the awesome work that you do on behalf of our community. When you think about it, where we were last year when we were recognizing all of you and we were going into this moment of unknown, and where would we be as a community? And in our community, we leaned on you guys, and you guys had that strong back, and you always delivered. And our community, stayed resilient. Part of the reason why is because of the work that all of you do day in and day out. It looks like, knock on wood, right? We're moving to a better future, but that doesn't mean that your job gets any easier, right? You guys always have, that tough work that keeps all of us safe and functioning as a healthy community. So I just want to thank you so much for your dedication to your craft. Thanks.
Anybody else would like to say something? Colleen.
Have to unmute. I was just going to say that I think around town, I've seen almost all of you at one time or another, or had an interaction with you. And it's really something to think about. Every time we turn on the water and drive down the street, I look at all your faces and I go, wow, you're all responsible for that. And sometimes, it's almost, public works is so seamless. It's like you all walk on water. We have no idea how simple you make things look. But I was going to point out that one of your members is in this Zoom meeting and proves how you all not only can walk on water, but scale walls and be upside down, because one of you is walking on the walls. Do you see that in the gallery view? Karen does, because she's laughing. She knows what I'm talking about. Well, I'm not trying to make fun of anyone. I think it just proves the type of job that you do all the time. And I do have heartfelt appreciation. I've had interactions with you, emergencies, and I can't say enough for what you do. Thank you.
Thanks, Colleen. Madison, Terry, do you need to say something? Oh, Terry, thank you.
I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who does such a hard job and keeps our city running. So thank you.
Right.
Okay, I guess I'll wrap it up here.
There you go.
Thank you so much for your dedication to the city of Brisbane. You really are the engine that keeps us humming. So thank you so much for what I imagine is long hours. And half the time, I think, you guys are faced with challenges that you have to figure out how you're going to accomplish on the spot. And I thank you so much for putting in that time to make sure that the city of Brisbane is running smoothly. You truly are our unsung heroes. And I know you guys have probably been really busy the last week with all this crazy wind. So thank you so much for all the time that you put in.
And when we hear the digging up of the road at 3 a.m. in the middle of winter when a storm has burst some water pipe and there's a whole bunch of people out there freezing and smiling at the same time. Guys, thanks so much. Okay, any other comments, Ingrid?
I'd add one. I think they should all have a medallion imprinted with the words, "If the public only knew what we went through today," because I'm sure that's a commonly uttered phrase.
Might need to be on a jacket lapel or something like that. Mm-hmm. What do you think, Karen? Yeah.
Done that. And I'm not, so everyone doesn't go off mute, I want to say thank you to the council members on behalf of everyone. Also let them know that you can leave the Zoom meeting and watch from home if you'd rather.
Yeah. Leave the Zoom meeting and watch the rest of the meeting from home. I know you'd love it. Thanks so much, everyone. Okay, so moving on to item D, and goodbye to those who are leaving our meeting tonight.
Thank you.
Item D is a proclamation designating May 16 to 22, 2021 as Emergency Medical Services Week. And with us this evening to accept this proclamation is Matt Powers, and he is our Battalion Chief, Administrative Services Bureau, EMS Division, North County Fire Authority, serving Brisbane, Daly City, and Pacifica. And so, Matt, here is the proclamation that you will receive once I finish reading it. And here we go. Emergency Medical Services Week proclamation to designate the week of May 16 through 22, 2021 as Emergency Medical Services Week. Whereas emergency medical services pre-hospital is a vital public service. And whereas the North County Fire Authority is ready to provide life-saving pre-hospital care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And whereas access to quality emergency pre-hospital care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury. And whereas emergency medical services and pre-hospital care has grown to fill a gap by providing important out-of-hospital care. And whereas the emergency medical services pre-hospital care system consists of first responders, emergency medical technicians, firefighter, paramedics, private paramedics, emergency medical dispatchers, firefighters, police officers, educators, administrators, pre-hospital nurses, emergency physicians, trained members of the public, and other out-of-hospital medical care providers. And whereas the North County Fire Authority engages in thousands of hours of specialized training and continuing education to enhance their life-saving skills. And whereas this last year, emergency medical services were faced with unprecedented health and safety challenges due to the COVID-19 pandemic, which resulted in monumental changes in everyday procedures. And whereas it is appropriate to recognize the value and the accomplishments of North County Fire Authority and emergency medical services providers by designating Emergency Medical Services Week. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Karen Cunningham, in recognition of this event, do hereby proclaim the week of May 16 through 22, 2021 as Emergency Medical Services Week with the EMS strong theme, "This is EMS, caring for our communities." I encourage the community to observe honoring those who respond to medical emergencies in our communities. Dated May 20, 2021. Thank you very much. Matt, over to you.
All right, great. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mary Cunningham and the Honorable City Council members. But on the behalf of the North County Fire Authority, Chief Myers and myself in your EMS division, we'd like to thank you for this proclamation recognizing the work, the tireless work of all of our firefighter, paramedics, and EMTs that really dedicated their lives away from their families, working overtime and really taking care of the medical community out there for any emergency medical response requests. With that, they're highly skilled, they do quite well in their job, and during the COVID pandemic especially has been extra ordinary in their commitment and being safe, and also being safe and saving for those people that are out in the community feeling ill with COVID-19 symptoms, etc. So it's really important, especially this year, that we do recognize them for their work for EMS Week, and we are honored to accept this proclamation from the City of Brisbane. So thank you for that.
Thank you. And thank you for taking my call last night when I needed to call for a friend who was in need. So firsthand experience, thanks so much.
Hope you're doing well. Thank you.
They're fine, thank you. Okay, anybody would like to say something? All right, I'm scrolling across here. Cliff?
Just thank you. Thank you for all the work you do.
Thanks, Cliff. Any more comments?
Madam Mayor, I'd just like to say thank you for all the help and assistance that EMS provides to us. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Terry. All right, Colleen.
I cannot imagine working through a pandemic and doing emergency services. It just boggles my mind, and you have been there through this whole year, and still, I can't thank you enough for that. That's real dedication. Thank you.
Madison?
I guess I'll go. last again. I just want to echo all of what's been said. Thank you so much for all the time that you put in. And, I don't think that we would have some of the best rates, COVID rates in the country without dedicated people like you who are making sure that people are being safe and that we're protecting human life. And I think that what you do has to be, an emotionally taxing job. And so thank you. You see the worst, right? And you see things that are probably devastating. And I think it just takes such a strong individual to be able to do what you do day in and day out. So thank you so much for your dedication, and especially this last year.
All right. One thing, thank you, everyone. Just one thing I do want to mention is, during this pandemic too, on the prevention side, that our firefighters all became emergency vaccinators. So they all worked as being able to vaccinate under an emergency use by the state of California. So all of the lives that they protected by working at these mass vax clinics, by giving vaccines to the public out there 10, 12 hours a day on their feet, just to really get people vaccinated, and all the great work they did with that as well.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Thanks.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Go and enjoy the rest of your evening.
All right, thanks.
Thanks so much. Okay, we are moving on to item 5, oral communications number 1. Are there any members of the public wishing to speak on an item not on the agenda? Ingrid, I know we have one person waiting. Do we have anybody else?
Yeah, before we have members of the public speak, I did want to note that Becky Abens, the commissioner on the San Mateo County Commission on the Status of Women and a Brisbane resident, she sent a written council correspondence to thank the council for recognizing May as Mental Health Month. We also have Terry Friedman who'd like to make a public comment.
Thanks. Go ahead, Tara.
You can all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Madam Mayor and honorable council members, my name is Tara Friedman. I'm the president of San Bruno Mountain Watch. And I wanted to take this time just to say thank you for your continued support with the San Bruno Mission Blue Nursery at its location. We're very much like to stay at this location and in Brisbane. I'd also like to thank you for the COVID grant to San Bruno Mountain Watch this year. It really greatly helped us. And I'm just saying thank you.
Thanks, Tara. Thanks so much. Was there anybody else from San Bruno Mountain Watch here?
Yes, Ariel.
Hi, thank you very much. Good evening, Honorable Madam Mayor and Honorable Council members. I would also like to express my utmost gratitude for the $5,442 grant that, as Tara mentioned, was provided to San Bruno Mountain Watch in 2020. It helped us continue to offer our programs in novel ways. And if the council would like, I'd really appreciate the opportunity to come before you at a future council meeting and present a slideshow highlighting some of our current activities and projects on San Bruno Mountain and at the Mission Blue Nursery. So thank you very much for your consideration, kindness, and support.
Thanks, Ariel. I'm sure if you bring that forward, we can get it on a future agenda.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. Okay, moving on to item 6, the consent calendar. As we previously mentioned, item G has been removed from the calendar. So with that modification, do we have a first and second to approve the consent calendar items E, F, H, and I?
I would move to approve items E, F, H, and I. Make a motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Second from Madison Davis. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Lentz.
Aye.
Councilmember Mackin.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
And Mayor Cunningham.
Aye. Thank you. Item 7 is old business. Item J, consider the authorization of $150,000 for small business assistance. Staff report, please.
Sure. Back in February, the City Council discussed the possibility of setting money aside to assist small businesses in Brisbane that were impacted by COVID. At that time, there was a conversation around how many restaurants would apply for this MCEDA grant of $10,000. What we have learned is that 6 restaurants have applied. 1 of them received the grant. The other 5 have been preliminary qualified, but there was only 1 grant available in Brisbane, or that they gave to restaurants in Brisbane. So there are still 5 restaurants that are eligible to receive grants, and we are not able to discern who those restaurants are. That is a guarded secret for a number of reasons. But if the City Council decides to put money towards the SAMCEDA program, those restaurants would need to go through further screening to make sure that they fully qualify. One of the qualifications for that is that they are a business located within Brisbane. They have their Brisbane business license. They have all of their health inspections up to date, that they are a restaurant that was here prior to COVID and they plan to be here after COVID. So that would be the qualifications for receiving that $10,000 if the City Council wants to put money towards that. The Economic Development Subcommittee also discussed setting aside about $100,000 from the general fund for businesses that were gross receipts of $5 million or less, that they had a loss of revenues for the most recent 12 months during the COVID period of 25% or more revenues lost, that the businesses are committed to being open after COVID emergency is over, that they're located in Brisbane and have a Brisbane business license. The amount per business that they would recommend would be $2,500 to be able to assist the most number of businesses. When this was originally brought to the City Council, the question about where the businesses would be located was under conversation. Originally, the thought was the businesses located on Visitation Avenue and in the Village, but as the subcommittee discussed it more, there are a number of businesses that have been affected throughout the city. There are home-based businesses that have been affected. There are businesses that are located, small business located in the Crocker Industrial Park and a number of the smaller spaces. So the subcommittee felt that we should expand the amount of money that was available for this program and extend the reach for it to be able to impact the largest number of businesses possible. Also, with the SAMCEDA grant, it's only for restaurants that have a full service kitchen. So the city grant would be available for those restaurants that are not full service restaurants that were impacted. There are a number of businesses that you probably can think of that you know have been impacted through this that don't have full service kitchens. So it would expand that capability as well. The money that we would anticipate of $150,000 to cover this would come from the general fund. As I talked about at the last council meeting with the mid-year budget review, one of the things that I did not talk about was the American Recovery Plan money that we should be receiving. It's anticipated that we will receive two sets of money. They call it tranches, but we'll receive money in the near future and then money 12 months later. We anticipate receiving $400,000 in each of those times. One of the specific purposes available for this money is to help businesses that have been impacted by COVID. Another ability for this money to be used is for just to offset some of our general fund losses that we have. As we talked about, we do have some of those as well. But the subcommittee thought that putting $150,000 towards the business community was a very good show of faith of what the city appreciates the businesses that are here, that we anticipate that we want to keep the small businesses in town, and that the $150,000 is specifically used for that purpose, is dedicated for that. I think that sums up the subcommittee's thoughts, but obviously the subcommittee is here that they can speak for themselves as well.
Thanks, Stuart. The other thing that we should mention is that the city council members are not able to apply for these grants.
Correct.
Just so the public knows. Thank you.
Nor anybody who works for the city we might have an employee who might have a business on the side. They would not be able to apply for it as well either.
Okay, thanks for the clarification. Okay, council questions.
like to hear from the subcommittee, particularly about the 5 million in gross receipts with a $2,500 max, how that would affect a 5 million gross receipts company. And it seems a drop in the bucket for them.
I think one of the things, Terry, that I thought is that, you know, there's probably a lot more bills than 2,500 that a lot of these companies have. But even as a gesture, if there's $2,500 available to a small business that is in trouble, maybe that's one bill that can go away, one bill off the pile. And I was only thinking from, you know, my personal perspective, how beneficial something like that would be to a small business that's staring at a pile of bills that they haven't been able to pay because of, you know, the drastic reduction in their income in the last year. So that's where my head was at relative to that. And yeah, I know it's a drop in the bucket. I think we acknowledged that it was a drop in the bucket, but at least it was something. Maybe it's a month's rent or something like that. Cliff, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, you know, you said it perfectly, Madam Mayor. You know, another thing that we talked about in our discussion was that this isn't meant to, you know, save some business, right? It's a show of goodwill, and that we appreciate them being in business in Brisbane, and we know that a lot of our businesses have suffered. And so, you know, this money that we would allocate is coming from the federal government, and it's used to be put right back into the local economy. And you know, like you said, Madam Mayor, I mean, if we could help one little bill, or, you know, help that business to perhaps give you know, certain employees a little extra money in their paycheck for sticking with them, you know, that's a nice thing to do.
And I also think one of the things that the committee talked about was when allocating $100,000, they wanted to help as many businesses as possible. So the thought was, if you did, you know, $5,000 or $10,000 per business, it would limit the number of businesses that would be able to be helped. I think that was another one of the ideas that the subcommittee was discussing at that time.
Correct.
You know, sir, I do have a question. If you, unless you have another question, Terry.
Well, I think we're still in the questions, not the discussion stage. So I'd rather hear other people's questions.
Okay, so Stuart, I have a question for you. So, you know, so the 50,000 that would go to CMCTA, that's anticipating that potentially these restaurants would then qualify for that that contribution. But there's still a possibility that these restaurants might not fulfill the standards that CMCTA has set out, and then that they would not receive these funds. Is that correct?
Correct. And if they don't receive the money, it would come back to the city of Brisbane.
Okay, that was my follow-up question. You know, where would that money go? Okay, thank you.
Madison, Terry, I'm Colleen. Either of you have questions?
Madison, you want to go first?
I don't have any questions. I mean, maybe for the group to factor into the decision making is that Congress just, you know, the federal government just approved the Restaurant Revitalization Act, which is an unprecedented level of support for restaurants that didn't exist prior to staff evaluating these options, but is basically $28.6 billion in funding, up to $10 million per restaurant, $5 million per location. And it basically reimburses the business for all losses occurred due to COVID. You can only be a restaurant to receive that. So, and I think that it does include food trucks. And I think that that's a broader qualifications than what was what Samceda's program is. So I think it's important for the council to note that there is now a mass amount of support specifically for restaurants that wasn't there when you guys were initially, the subcommittee was initially considering how to divide this money.
Yeah, I'm going to chime in with what you said, Madison. I've actually got information downloaded here on Restaurant Revitalization Fund, which is 28.6 billion. Applicants with gross receipts not more than 500,000, and smallest restaurants, other eating establishments such as food trucks and carts. So it's pretty comprehensive. And my question really for the subcommittee and looking at this proposal, this ceiling of that we're proposing of 5 million or less, the businesses, had you considered ever lowering that so that we have a greater effect on small businesses, which are probably hurting more than some of the big businesses?
Well, 5 million does seem like a lot. And, not to disclose any, private information, but, there's companies that you don't think gross that much, but they actually do. And then, just because the company grosses a lot of money doesn't mean that then they make a lot of profit. There's a lot of expenses that go into running a business. And so, there was a recommendation to have even a higher ceiling, and we came down to the 5 million because we felt that that was more balanced, and we wanted to make sure that we, cast a wide enough net to be able to spend that money.
I mentioned that because when you're giving out $2,500 to a business that's potentially close to that amount, it's such a small amount, and yet $2,500 to a small business is a lot. And some of the bigger businesses have had access to PPP loans all along, and the small businesses have not. So that's where I'm just weighing it out and asking questions whether you considered that a lot of the bigger businesses have been able to do that. The smaller ones have not.
Well, you would, so maybe, we could pitch a question to Stuart, is that, and Stuart knows more of the gross receipts of companies because of the business license fee. Could we administer this in a staggered sense? Like a certain amount goes to this level of gross sales, and then if that money is not used, then go to the next level, and then go to the next level, without having it be a burden to the finance department.
Well, we're actually going to probably run this through either an outside agency, if we can work with Samceda to find one, or I work with Mitch Bull as our economic development manager to work through the application process. What we could do is give extra points to those companies that are below $3 million. So what you do is, what we could say is that this is the criteria that when we receive all the applications, we'll go through them. We will first provide money to all businesses less than $3 million in gross receipts. And then any money that is left over after that 3 million would go to businesses that are between 3 and 5 million. We can do something like that if you would like. That doesn't answer the question about $2,500 being for what impact that would have on a $5 million company. And I do understand, I do understand the concerns, but if you're a $5 million company in Brisbane, that may pay for your electric bill and your water bill for the period of time. Stuff like, I think those were the kinds of ideas that as Karen said, it takes one bill, it takes a couple of bills off of your plate. But we could do something where we stagger the amount of money for the different businesses.
Right, Terry, you had a question or comment?
What does the federal government consider a small business? Where is their dollar amount on gross receipts for a small business?
I have not looked that up. But
Because
I
it
can find,
seems a 5 million cap is not what I would call a small business. I mean, that's quite a bit of business. And, really, I think that this goal was to help our very small businesses that are in town. And I would rather see that cap lower than higher. And I'm also, I know we are intending or expecting to get funds that reimburse this money from the federal government, but I'm not sure we are certain of that. And we're already just putting aside doing any money into our pension and other funds because we have reduced income. So I just wonder if we really can afford this for our, what I would consider a mid-sized business at $5 million.
so I just looked up on the web as to what the Small Business Administration defines as a small business. And it would not be anything we would call small. It is less than 1,500 employees and a maximum of 38.5 in annual receipts.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah, and Stuart, if you could address Councilwoman O'Connell's question about the certainty of the funds from the federal government.
It is a certainty. I mean, they have allocated the money. We are going to get that money. It's going to get passed through from the state. So we will get the money. What we have heard is sometime in June or July at the latest for the first portion of money. And then the second portion of money will be 12 months after that.
Okay. And then also, because it was brought up, the federal funding that's coming for restaurants, do we really want to put $50,000 just to restaurants? Or should this be the funds spread out in the same grouping for our local restaurants and other small businesses instead of calling restaurants out?
I think that's, I think that is an interesting question. When I talked to the head of SAMCITA about that, her concern about the federal money was it was going to take a while for the restaurants to get, whereas this was money that was going to be available quicker. But I think, from a council perspective, and I'm sorry, Madison, I think I may have cut you off on that, but I did talk to the head of SAMCITA about that. And even with the federal bill being passed and funded, she still felt that this program was going to help restaurants quicker and better than what the federal government would do.
But perhaps we could do it all in that 150 rather than go through SAMCITA and not just apply to the people who have already applied to SAMCITA and put those restaurants in the same bucket, so to speak, same program, where they'd be eligible for $2,500 that may be more immediate.
That would be an option.
Because this is 10,000.
SAMCITA's is 10,000.
Right. So if we funded 50,000, it would go to 5 businesses at 10,000, and then everyone else would get 2,500.
Right. And I think what Councilmember O'Connell is suggesting, if we put $150,000 available through our program and just have that be a $2,500 maximum at this point. If I understood you correct, Madam.
That was my point of discussion there, yes.
Yeah. And I think that's a valid option on how we can do it.
The benefit to putting money and having SAMCITA do it is that it would be administered immediately and there's staff to do it. We wouldn't have to, create our own program. The requirements are there. So if you're looking at what would be the reason to do it, it's just that the framework is there, the staff is there, the way to administer the money is there. It's already a structure that's set up and ready to go, but it would mean that restaurants would be getting 10,000 that already have a mechanism to receive federal funding at a large amount of federal funding that other businesses don't have access to. So not only would they be able to get a grant from us that's 4 times what any other business would get, but they also have access to that federal funding that other businesses don't.
Yeah, Stuart, I have a question for you. In your proposal here, the 100,000 would also be administered by SAMCETA?
The hope would be is that when I've talked with the executive director of SAMCETA, is that they do work with a lot of different agencies that could be able to administer this for us. However, I will tell you that in the 3 times that I've tried to reach out to SAMCETA to get a contact name, I have not been successful at this point. So if we were to fund this at this point, I would make one more outreach to see if we can find an outside administrator. But if not, Mitch and I would work towards administering ourselves. Mitch has already developed an application for this, so we would be able to, try and get this thing out and running in the month of June, no matter what.
Okay, and then the program that Mitch has put together, it's kind of like a similar playbook to SAMCETA's.
Correct. I mean, we would need them to verify their gross receipts. They would, for the previous year, we would need them to verify their gross receipts during the COVID period. We would ask them for their business license. And of course, we as a city could look that up to make sure that that was legitimate. We would also have, them saying that they do plan to keep the business open post COVID. Because I think that's one of the big issues that the subcommittee talked about, is that, we want to ensure that businesses stay in Brisbane.
Got it. All right. No, that makes sense. And then, Madison or Colleen, you guys know more about this federal program to help restaurants. Did it pass Congress and then now it goes on to the Senate?
Nope.
Or so it's already the law of the land?
It's already been running for like the last, almost 3 weeks. They're prioritizing veterans, women, and those that are socially and economically disadvantaged for the first 3 weeks. I believe that it launched May
2nd.
Okay, May 2nd, May 3rd. So they're going to, for the first 3 weeks, that's who the applicants will be that they'll prioritize, and then it'll be open to other applicants, but people can start submitting applications now. And then the SBA is continually processing. So.
Okay, no, that's excellent. And is that part of the American Rescue Plan? Or is that completely separate? It is part of it.
It cares?
I think it's separate.
Separate.
I thought it was included, but anyway, it's out, it's going.
It's okay. So it's the law of the land. Okay, no, that, Terry, what you've recommended makes sense, and it's great, having the council discussion and getting this new information. Yes, I guess, it would be good if SAMCETA could help us, with the administration part, or providing some guidance to who could do it, but it sounds like we could do it in-house too.
Stuart, so you said you tried getting hold of SAMCETA twice already?
I have. I mean, the problem is with, SAMCETA is, a county-wide organization. There's a lot of issues that are going on. If I was to tell SAMCETA that that council approved funding for this program, here's the parameters for the program, that would move that up on their priority list to help us allocate the funds.
So I tend to agree with what Terry said too. And I'm now sort of somewhat inclined to say, why don't we just bring it in-house, bring the numbers down, and get it moving really fast, since there's so much other money coming to the rescue anyway. I mean, if we bring it in-house, it's going to be, sadly, on you and Mitch to administer, or find someone to help us administer it. But if SAMCETA is that overwhelmed, which I'm sure they are, and so many people requesting help, we could probably get this done a lot quicker, especially if you said Mitch has already got the application ready.
I mean, the chamber would be willing to assist if you needed additional help. We can obviously, send out information. the chamber has sent out information on the restaurant revitalization fund through email and also through the luminary, which is going to be delivered today and tomorrow. I would be more amenable to 30 grants at $5,000. I understand when you say $2,500 is really impactful for a small business, but in, you know, my discussions with businesses over the last year, that's nothing considering the debt that they have and the losses that they've experienced. I would rather, I think, you know, 30 businesses at 5,000, I think is going to be more impactful. 5,000, you really can do something with that. And if we're taking out, you know, that gives more money if we're no longer allotting 50,000 for 5 businesses and we're spreading that $150,000 pot out, giving 5 that, like, even if I think about, you know, something like the Chamber of Commerce as a nonprofit, 25, and we make, I would say, less than 200,000 a year. 2,500 really is not, it's not that big of an impact. So we would be considered a very, very lean operation. So in looking at those numbers as a nonprofit, even 2,500 is really barely enough to do anything. So I would say $5,000, 150,000 pot that we're working with, that's 30 businesses.
May I jump in here? First of all, I want to correct myself that the restaurant revitalization, Madison, you were right. I just looked it up here. It is part of American Rescue Plan. And I have a question. So the money that's anticipated to come into the city in the 2 allotments, are there any stipulations, Stuart, or anyone else that may know,
Yes.
that designate how the money can be used?
Yes, so it could be used to help businesses that have been impacted by COVID. So this is a specific, this type of a program is specifically written into the law. It can help residents with it can help people with their utility bills, which we already, you know, work with on water. We already work with our residents and our businesses with their water bills. It can help pay for infrastructure for water and sewer projects and broadband. We already have a plan to do our water and sewer projects, and we don't have a broadband plan at this point. And then the fourth purpose is to offset loss of revenue to cities. What the method for determining that is looking at your 2018, 2019 fiscal year, inflate that by 4.1% a year, and see what you received in 2021, 21, 22, and 22, 23. And, you know, based on what I provided you at mid-year, we very much are going to be able to use every penny that we get of this for the overall city purposes. The 800, you know, we're down more than $800,000 over that period of time. The issue though is that from a city perspective, we when I did the mid-year budget review with you and I let you know that 1920 turned out okay, 2021 is better than we had thought, and it's 21, 22, and possibly 22, 23 that we might have some more of the fiscal issue, that 800,000 wasn't taken into account. So that 800, whatever we have available from that 800,000 will help offset whatever deficit we will run next year. And that's what the purpose, you know, that's a good purpose for it. But also looking at it from a city-wide policy perspective, keeping businesses in town and having a long-term impact on their ability to provide us revenues going forward, and being a town that small businesses feel that we're there to help them. I think those are good policy offsets to other purposes that we might use the money for. And what I might recommend, if you want to increase the amount to 5,000 per business, is to go from 150 to 200,000, just to help that, you know, a few extra businesses. Because again, that's not money we were counting on as a city to get us through this time.
I like Madison's idea. I'd like to see this work from the bottom up, where we deal with the smallest businesses first.
Sure. What we can do is, like, you know, We will prioritize it. We will put out the call. We will let people know that, for businesses that are our first assistance will be businesses less than 3 million. If there's money left over after the small businesses of 3 million or less, we would then provide it for the $3+ to $5 million range. And if there's more businesses than apply, then we can bring that back to council and make a different decision when we have more information about the American Rescue Act information, as well as probably at the end of our fiscal year, how we ended up fiscal year 2021.
So is council happy with increasing the amount from 150 to 200 so we can help some more businesses and make it a $5,000 pot? That's where we're at on the table right now.
Yeah, I'm good with it. I do have a quick question for you, Stuart. So you roll out this, this proposal to our small businesses. Is there a window for which it's open and then it closes?
Right, that would be my recommendation. That what we would do is I work with Mitch. We would probably leave it open for a 2 to 3 week period. So that way we could reach out, to businesses during that period of time. We'll work with the chamber. We also, based on our business license information, we know which businesses are in that range. So we can, we can draft a letter to those businesses specifically as well.
Okay.
To get the word out.
You would have to.
All right.
So are we allowing staff? Okay, so sorry, I found the answer. Loss of 25% of revenues. Just kidding. I was going to ask if we were going to decide what constitutes an eligible applicant, but found it.
Yeah, Madison, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's just making me think, okay, and I know, trying not to get deep into the weeds here, but if there was a company that, they lost 25% in revenue, and it's a $3 million company, and they went from making $1 million a year, now they're making $750,000 a year in profit. I mean, just is that just like way too deep, and you just have to just kind of come up with some kind of criteria that makes it manageable to operate?
I think the subcommittee had that conversation during the first meeting back in January or early February. And I think the conversation for the subcommittee was that they wanted to make sure that the businesses had a bigger impact. Because if you lost 2% of your revenues, I mean, that potentially would not have a big impact on you. It might, especially if you're at the higher end.
Mm.
And I think that was the subcommittee was just trying to struggle with, is it 25%, is it 40%? And when we looked at some of the numbers, and and I talked about the numbers from what we knew from sales tax, that the 25% seemed, based on this size business with sales tax losses, those were the types of businesses that the subcommittee were thinking when they thought of the businesses in town that they knew were impacted. They all fell within that kind of group.
Okay, thanks.
25% seems to me a standard number in the programs that I've been seeing. Like, California has had a COVID relief fund, and it was 25%. I would suggest for the subcommittee to consider, or the council to consider, as well as staff, the period of time in which you look at. So I would suggest 2019 versus 2020. California COVID Relief Fund did a very specific window. I want to say January to September, or like April to September. And some businesses are seasonal. So some businesses, I think that that's such a short window to compare that period of time to 2019 to 2020, because there's such fluctuation in certain types of businesses because of being seasonal, that doesn't give a clear snapshot. But looking at 2019 to 2020 would give that snapshot, because it's a full year. And conceivably, people by now know what their 2020 numbers are, so they should be able to present that information.
Okay. Terry, did you have something else you wanted to say?
No, I just put my speaker on mute.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I think that as long as we're targeting the ultra small businesses, which is where I think that $5,000 will make a difference. I mean, that's their rent for a month, maybe two, in some of our ultra small businesses. So I would like to focus on those as much as we can. I'm not sure how you do that. I'm, as long as Stuart feels confident that we can absorb this, I think it's great that we can, if we're able to do it and not put ourselves at risk. I know we're more than 800,000 down for, TOT alone. So, as long as this doesn't put us at risk for being able to make our nut and our obligations, I'm happy to go along with it, but I would like to really look at our ultra small businesses, because I think we have at least 30 of those in town that are ultra small.
I mean,
And they're the lifeblood.
yeah, I mean, what we could do is we could tier it saying that, first priority is on businesses less than $1 million, second priority on businesses less than 3 million, and then the third priority are businesses less than 5 million.
That works.
Yeah, that sounds good. If there's no more comments or discussion from council, can we see if anybody from the public wants to throw something in here? Ingrid, is there anyone wants to ask questions or make comments on this?
Madam Mayor, I don't see any written correspondence or text messages regarding this item. I also don't see any attendees wishing to speak.
Oh, okay.
There are no attendees anymore. My item was not worth having other people listen to me.
We're listening to you, Stuart. It's all good. And
I
look,
appreciate that.
looks like we've got a resolve. So
okay, and just one further comment is I agree with Madison, because what we were thinking of is getting people's business license information as a check to what they gave us. So we do collect business license information on gross receipts by calendar year. So we do have people's business license information for 2019, and we do have people's business license for 2020. So this will give us a good check as to when they tell us what they earned, whether or not they're filling out their business license correctly as well.
okay, any more comments, or I'm going to make a motion to consider authorizing $200,000 for small business assistance with at a tiered level. The first tier under $1 million, the second tier under $3 million, and third tier under $5 million, with us making sure that all businesses who are applying for this loan do have current Brisbane business licenses and who are planning on staying in business in Brisbane. Would that be correct?
And that we fund the lowest tier first.
Yes, the first tier is level 1 tier is under 1 million, level 2 tier under 3 million, and level 3 tier under 5 million. So can I get a first and a second authorizing the $200,000 for small businesses with those notes in place?
I think you made the motion, Madam Mayor. So
Yeah.
I'll second that.
Sorry. I did make that motion. Thank you.
Yes.
Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Davis,
Aye.
Councilmember Lynch,
Aye.
Councilmember Mackin,
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell,
Aye.
and Mayor Cunningham.
Aye, thank you. Well done. I like the way this turned out. Thanks, everyone. Okay, moving on to item 9, staff reports. Item K is the city manager's report on upcoming activities. Report, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and City Council. We have a short update this evening. The first item is an update on the annual vegetation reduction management program. As you are aware, presentation was done at the last council meeting. The first notices went out to all properties on May 3rd. Inspections will be done by the North County Fire Authority inspectors. starting June 1st through 6th, and second letters will be mailed out on June 10th. Reminder to join us for Wildfire Awareness Day on Saturday, June 5th at the community park from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Amongst other groups, we will have North County Fire Authority, Brisbane Police Department, Fire Safe San Mateo County, California Department of Insurance. We will have insurance questions, defensible space, Ready, Set, Go evacuation plans, Zone Haven evacuation zones, and San Mateo County alert program. And a reminder that our summer 2021 group and private swim lessons registrations begin June 1st for Brisbane residents and June 8th for non-Brisbane residents. Registered online at brisbaneca.org/pool. And then finally, as we've been noting for a couple months now, that the 2021 Supervisory District Lines Advisory Commission applications are due on June 4th. If you want to serve on the San Mateo County board that will be determining the supervisor districts. And that is it for this evening.
Thank you very much. So moving on to item 10, Mayor Council Matters. Item L, Parks and Recreation Commission recruitment. Staff report, please.
Honorable Mayor and Council, as you know, on April 21st, 2021, the Brisbane City Council received a letter from Raul Covino resigning from the Parks and Recreation Commission. Mr. Covino's term was scheduled to expire in January 2022, along with the terms for Commissioners Bonnie Bologoff and Natalie Ocampo. Staff recommends opening a recruitment for all 3 Parks and Recreation Commission seats later this fall for appointments effective January 2022. Staff will also reach out to former commission and committee applicants from the previous recruitment cycle and intends to advertise via social media, email blast, board postings, and the Star newsletter.
Okay. Any comments from council on that? Okay, thank you. Moving on to item M, countywide assignments and subcommittee reports. Who would like to start? Cliff, I nominate you.
All right, Madam Mayor. Let's see. So Madison and I had a affordable housing subcommittee meeting yesterday with blanking out on Felix's last name from Mid-Penn, but he was great to provide information to us in regards to evaluating affordable housing opportunities in Brisbane, and looking forward to also moving the process along for getting a consultant to help us with our affordable housing goals. So yeah, just that was pretty much about it. Madison, you have anything else you want to add to that?
I know, I think you summed it up. Yeah, we just talked about more about the types of projects that Mid-Penn constructs and what they would conceive would be possible on that site, and kind of how their organization is structured and funded. So I was actually surprised by what they said they felt was possible there. And this is something that we will bring back to the council in closed session for a more thorough presentation with Felix, so that you guys can ask questions that you may have.
And then Karen, you and I had Baylands subcommittee meeting, which was excellent. Just talking with, well, I guess not McCool, with Ellen, I think. Ellie, with Ellie from MIG, and just looking at sustainability goals, community goals, health and recreation. It was a very robust meeting, and just wanting to take the bulls by the horn and the bull by the horns, and come up with, a counter narrative to what UPC is putting on the table. So I don't know. Anything else you want to add to that, Karen?
Yeah, when you think about all the things we've talked about relative to the potential for the Baylands, we really feel that the plan really needs to reflect what we have said. And thus far, I don't see that as being the case. And, for us to make the Baylands, or try and make the Baylands a community that is adjoined to Brisbane, we're going to have to work really hard on, getting the developers to understand, what that means for our community moving forward. So we had a fairly in-depth conversation regarding that, and, how we might be able to move the needle from, a standalone community to we're trying to make us cohesive. So I feel very strongly about moving in that direction. And so I'll be shaking that stick moving forward.
Yeah. And we talked about, how we structure the future council workshop and trying to get something going with all of us sooner than later.
Yes,
So,
absolutely. Trying to get us all out in public and getting those ideas flowing from all of us is going to be critical, absolutely critical. And I think, yes, sooner rather than later, for sure.
mm-hmm. And then the last subcommittee I was on was with you, Terry, with SharePoint guidelines. So we had a proposal or a pitch, I guess, from Health Peak in regards to a property that they purchased across the street from their campus that they're still working on. So they bought the Diamond buildings. There's two buildings on the site right now. One's 12 stories, the other one's 8 stories. Massive sea of surface parking, and then a small garage. They're proposing 2 more buildings and greatly expanding the parking garage, looking at the 2 buildings, one being 14 stories, the other one being 9 stories. You combine the total square footage between these 2 new buildings and the parking garage, you're looking at over 800,000. 800,000 square feet. Take that into comparing what they are currently doing at what they call the shore. That's 600,000, right? So this new proposal that they'd like to do is significantly bigger than what they were allowed to build. And I guess probably about 12 years ago when they got the approval from the city council. One of the things that really, really stands out to me, and is something that I hope that we can all get around and start to really put some serious effort in, that parking garage. They're proposing 3,500 parking stalls, right? 3,500. And yes, okay, with their proposal, they're eliminating most of the surface parking. They're going to have 150 or so surface parking spots, but 3,500. We need to have a traffic demand management plan, right? TDM, for the site or for Brisbane. And Karen, you might want to chime in a little bit on what CCAG is doing in that effort to help all the cities. But we got these guys proposing something, and we talked about UPC proposing their thing. If we're going to allow any kind of additional development out there, we really need to have some kind of traffic management plan, or it's going to be just a disaster. So, Tara, you want to add anything else to that?
Well, I think we're jumping ahead of ourselves. I think that this project and the other ones that are out there, what we discussed in our subcommittee, and we didn't really get into the nuts and bolts of it because this was a developer generated meeting, is that traffic management is going to be critical. And with the current ingress and egress on the site, it would be extremely difficult to manage the size of project that they're looking at. It also really affects the view corridors that have been, the backbone of what was intended for the area. And so I think it's going to be a big reach and a big ask for this design to, go forward. It would require a lot of environmental work, water, traffic. Certainly traffic demand is going to be a big one, and, possibly freeway realignment. So it was a big project and a big ask, and I look forward to sharing that with council as it moves forward.
Okay, who's next?
I'll continue. Madison and I had a LunaFest meeting, I think yesterday, and we've set a date, and I think I'll let Madison give the report out on that because she is the queen of LunaFest.
Thanks, Terry. So yes, we set aside a date. It's going to be September 25th. Mark our calendars. We're really excited. I think this is probably going to be the first event, in-person event that the city is probably going to have of this nature. And it was the first event that got chopped when we went into COVID. So I think that it's fitting that this was the event that we had just missed out on, and now this is the event that we will get to do for the first time when we come back. So we are planning to actually have 2 LunaFests this year, a matinee at 1 o'clock for 12:30-ish, 12:30, 1 o'clock for people who want to maybe bring their kids, or they want to have, more relaxed daytime sort of experience. And that will be $20 per ticket for the matinee. And then we are planning to have a VIP screening in the evening, which will be likely around 6 o'clock or so. We're still kind of ironing out the times. And that will be $60 a ticket, which will include a glass, a beverage of your choice, and some heavy appetizers and potentially food for purchase, or potentially food built into the price. And we are going to be wrapping up the evening with a dance party. We're looking at potentially doing a 50-50 raffle. So that will be a really fun event as well. And our thought on the 2 events is that, if we need to be at 50% capacity, or we want to provide more room for social distancing, this is a way to do it, because we are spreading attendees out into events. We also are going to have a virtual component for those people who don't feel like attending in person, but still love LunaFest. So there will be a virtual option for those people. And I think that's really the nuts and the bolts of LunaFest. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Colleen?
I actually have nothing to report.
Well, we need to load your calendar a bit more then. That's not fair.
No, I'm looking ahead. There'll be plenty.
Okay. So I had a foundation of San Mateo County Library and a library JPA meeting. Basically, almost brought tears to my eyes just listening to you know, how excited the general public were to have their libraries back. And, you know, the reopening of the Brisbane Library, or the opening per se of the Brisbane Library for the first time, and the first people through the door, and all the programs that are being planned for the summertime are just phenomenal. The Big Inspiring Lift program, which is, you know, helping our underserved kids throughout San Mateo County. They've put in a huge amount of extra money into that program this year so we can have more children in programs to try and make up for some of the stuff they lost in the last year. So that stuff was all very, very heartening and positive. The amount of money flowing into those programs is huge. And as being somebody on the foundation, I'll probably be hitting you all up for some money for that as well. So we can just serve more people in our community. You know, people still don't realize there's sewing machines, there's, you know, the maker space. There's so much being offered by the libraries. It's not just books. So there's a lot of social stuff going on. And it's just really exciting. As I said, it nearly brought tears to my eyes. It was so amazing to see what was going on. And of course, we had the Bayland subcommittee. And, you know, part of the CCAG meeting I also had, we were talking about, you know, the fast lanes are getting there. And at the same time, we're talking about the whole idea of, you know, work hybridization, and where that's going to end up, who knows? But that door is wide open, and it's wide open for a lot of reasons. Part of the reasons it's open is, you know, understanding that we have the cleanest air we've had in 20 years now. We've got less cars on the road, or as Cliff pointed out yesterday in our Baylands meeting, there's still a lot of cars on the road at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, for sure. But the whole hybridization of people working from home, what is that going to look like moving forward? So the CCAG board are all on board with, you know, looking at what that looks like and how that's going to, you know, affect the traffic, et cetera, moving forward. So yeah, a lot of big brains working on that one. And that's it for me. So anybody got anything else they want to say before we move on? Okay, so item N is City Council meeting schedule. The next City Council meeting is scheduled for June the 3rd. And then we go on to item O, written communications. City Clerk, do we have any written communications? I didn't get anything. I think you got something this afternoon, right? Ingrid?
Does everybody, let me go ahead and share the screen in terms of the written correspondences. We did receive written correspondences from Go Solar via Isabella Sanchez, update sign letter so you can go solar by May 13. We had the correspondences from Tara Friedman and Ariel Trabowski, a promising future for the Mission Blue Nursery on the Brisbane Baylands, and the remote public comment for 5/20/21 Brisbane City Council. And as noted, Becky Abens about May as Mental Health Month proclamation.
Great. Thank you very much. Now moving on to item 11, oral communications number 2. Is there any members of the public who would like to speak on an item that was not on the City Council agenda?
I have not received any written correspondence, Mayor Cunningham, nor see any attendees.
Okay, then this was a marathon short meeting, everybody. So item 12 is adjournment to the City Council meeting of June the 3rd, 2021. Enjoy your evening, and thank you very much.
All right. Have a nice weekend, everyone.